I want you to close your eyes for a second. Go back to when you were 10 years old, or maybe 12. Who were you going to be? Not who your parents wanted you to be, not who the economy needed you to be. Who were you going to be? Maybe you were going to be a comic book artist, maybe an astronaut, maybe you were going to save the rainforests, maybe you were going to write songs that made the whole world cry. Now, open your eyes, look at your life today. Where did that kid go? For most of us, there is a specific moment, usually in our early 20s, where we commit a quiet murder. We take that childhood dream, we label it unrealistic or immature, and we bury it. We call this growing up. We call it being an adult. But here is the dangerous part. Dreams don't always die. Sometimes they just go underground. They turn into ghosts that haunt your cubicle. They turn into that subtle background radiation of anxiety that tells you something is missing. Welcome to Art of Life. I'm your host Bhavesh Malhotra. Today we are going to do something difficult. We are going to go into the attic of your mind, open the dusty box labeled childhood dreams, and look inside. We are going to answer the hard questions. Was that dream just a fantasy that you were right to leave behind? Or was it the most real thing about you and you made a mistake giving it up? And if you did make a mistake, is it too late to fix it? Spoiler, it's not. But the solution isn't what you think. Stick around because later in the video, I'm going to teach you about the shadow career, a psychological concept that might explain exactly why you hate your current job. Let's dig in. The autopsy. Why did we quit? Before we decide to revive a dream, we have to understand how it died. We need to perform an autopsy. Usually we tell ourselves a story. I gave up on being a musician because there's no money in it, or I gave up on sports because I got injured. Those are the surface reasons, but the psychological reasons are deeper. Reason 1, the cult of average. School and society are designed to produce functional workers, not outliers. From age 5 to 18, you are rewarded for compliance. You are rewarded for coloring inside the lines. A childhood dream is usually messy, it's risky, it's outside the lines. We quit because we were socialized to fear being weird. We traded passion for safety. Reason 2, the expert fallacy. When you are a kid, you paint because painting is fun. You don't care if it's good. As you hit puberty, you start comparing. You look at Picasso or the best artist in your class and say, I'm not a genius, so I shouldn't do it at all. We adopted this toxic binary. If I can't be the best in the world at it, it's not worth doing. We killed the joy because we couldn't guarantee the glory. Reason 3, the drift. This is the most common one. You didn't consciously quit. You just got busy. You took a temporary job to pay the bills. Then you got a promotion. Then you got a car loan. Then you got married. One day you wake up, you're 35 and you haven't touched a paintbrush in 15 years. You didn't choose to quit. You just forgot to keep going. Understanding why you quit is crucial. If you quit because you genuinely lost interest, that's fine. That's growth. But if you quit because of fear, comparison, or the drift, that dream is unfinished business. An unfinished business festers. The shadow career, the diagnosis. Now let's figure out if your dream is actually haunting you. There is a brilliant author named Steven Pressfield who wrote The War of Art. He talks about something called the shadow career. A shadow career is a job you take that mimics your real dream, but without the risk. It's a counterfeit version of your passion. Here are some examples. Your dream was to be a novelist, creative, solitary storytelling. Your shadow career is being an editor or a copywriter. You are still working with words. You are adjacent to the art, but you aren't taking the risk of writing your own words. Your dream was to be an entrepreneur, risk taker, builder. Your shadow career is being a project manager in a massive corporation. You are managing projects, but it's not your vision and it's not your risk. Your dream was to be a therapist, helping people, deep connection. Your shadow career is working in HR. You deal with people problems but buried under bureaucracy. Why do we choose shadow careers? Because they feel safe. We get to be near the fire without getting burned. But the problem is, a shadow career doesn't satisfy the soul. It actually makes the pain worse because you are constantly reminded of what you could be doing. If you are feeling a deep, unexplained resentment toward your job, ask yourself, is this a shadow career? Am I sitting in the shadow of the thing I actually want to do? If the answer is yes, we have work to do. When to let it go versus when to revive it. Does this mean everyone should quit their job today and try to become a professional ballerina at age 40? No, that is reckless. We need to distinguish between fantasy and calling. Case A. When you should leave the dream dead. Sometimes we romanticize the past. Maybe you wanted to be a veterinarian because you loved puppies, but you actually hate science, you hate blood, and you hate long hours. That wasn't a calling, that was a childish whim. Or maybe you wanted to be an NBA player, but you are 5 feet 6 inches and 40 years old. Biology has made the decision for you. If the dream is purely about status, being famous, being admired, let it die. That is ego. If the dream contradicts your current values, for example, you wanted to be a traveling rock star, but now you value stability and being home with your kids, let it die. You have evolved. Mourn it and move on. Case B. When you should revive the dream, you should revive it if the desire is about the process, not the outcome. Do you miss the act of writing? Do you miss the feeling of solving code? Do you miss the smell of the dark room? If the activity itself brings you into a state of flow or where time disappears, that is not a childhood whim. That is your wiring. That is your DNA. To ignore it is to ignore yourself. And so, how do we bring it back without blowing up our lives? 1630 to 1900. Section 4. The integration strategy. The 10% solution. Bhavesh, we don't do dramatic pivots, we don't burn bridges, we use integration, we strip the dream down to its essence. If your dream was to be a famous novelist, strip away the famous part, strip away the full-time career part. What is left? Storytelling. How can you integrate storytelling into your life today? Maybe you start a Substack, maybe you write short stories on weekends, maybe you start a Dungeons and Dragons group. If your dream was professional athlete, strip away the professional. What is left? Physical mastery and competition. Join a local league. Train for a triathlon. This is the 10% solution. Can you give 10% of your week to the purest form of that dream? You will find two things happen. The pressure releases. Once you start doing the thing, even a little bit, the ghost in the attic stops haunting you. You feel lighter. It might grow. That 10% might become 20%. That side hobby might become a side hustle. That side hustle might eventually become your career. But you don't start with the career, you start with the joy. You have to lower the stakes. Your childhood dream doesn't have to pay your mortgage, it just has to pay your soul. I want to leave you with this thought. It is never too late to be who you might have been, but you have to redefine what being that person means. You don't need the title, you don't need the validation, you just need the practice. Go into that mental attic, dust off that box, take out the paintbrush, the instrument, the notebook, and just play. Not for money, not for Instagram, but for that little kid inside you who has been waiting patiently for you to come back. Don't let the best part of you die of neglect. If this video struck a chord, if it reminded you of something you forgot, hit the like button. And in the comments, I want you to be brave. Tell me, what is the childhood dream you gave up on? And tell me, are you going to leave it in the box or are you going to take it out this weekend? I'm Bhavesh Malhotra. Go find your magic. I'll see you in the next one.